beautiful song.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah.
Hits you in the throat, man.
Yeah, definitely an emotional piece for sure.
Yeah. It was an emotional one to write. Probably like one of my most emotional records. And I produced it as well. So
it's interesting even when I hear the track.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is a vibe. And then you listen to the lyrics, you're like, oh, this you talking about something that's real and personal.
Yeah. I felt like I kind of purposely did it like that because I was like, you know, it felt like a release to me more so than it being sad because, I mean, at one point I couldn't even cry. So to even be able to like make a record, I'm like, you know, let me put a hit on it, put a bop on it, like to make it, you know, lighten the mood of the record a little bit. Yeah.
It's interesting how grief hits you, and people process grief differently.
Yeah.
You know, we're all creatives here.
Mm-hmm.
We're all black men, and a lot of times we're told not to cry, not to feel, man up.
Yeah.
How have you been able to use your grief as a form of creativity?
Man, it's been a journey. I say that. I feel like when my mother first passed, it was just like trying to sit with the reality of it. And I feel like through therapy, therapy really like unlocked a whole different tool that I didn't even know I had. I started journaling, and I wake up and I just like free write, bro. And I just like write whatever it was I was feeling. And as it relates to this grief thing, you know, I would write how I felt. And it almost felt like I was talking to somebody. I'm like, yo, subliminally, it was like, it felt like I'm low-key like not alone, like dealing with it, like writing it out. And then sometime I would revisit stuff that I wrote and come to the studio, I open up the journal, and it go from like me talking about, you know, whatever I was feeling that morning, whether it was my mom, and then I'm like free writing about other stuff. And so I get to the studio, I'm like, yo, writer's block, pull out my journal, and I'm like, yo, and I translated it. I found a very creative way to like translate it into the music. And actually released one of my first projects called Between Two Worlds, which was and this is crazy, this is another part. I subject my journal, like for the day. It's like, yo, today I feel like, you know what I'm saying? It's like today I feel like I'm weighing the pros and cons. Today I feel like it's good, but it's bad for me. Today I feel like the truth is, and I put the subtopic on the top, and it'll just like, you know, and I started titling my tracks the subtopic of my journals. Yeah.
What was your mother's name?
Her name was Nicole.
Nicole.
Yeah.
Full name Nicole.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
How did she pass?
She passed away of kidney and heart failure. Yeah. But it was like a thing that happened kind of quick. You know, it wasn't like a expecting it type situation. You know, speaking towards like taking care of ourselves. You know, from Mississippi, you know, we got all the best food in the world, but one thing that's not talked about is health. You know, so
the food that we process through our bodies.
You know. And so coming to LA was actually kind of tricky, you know, because I'm this kid from Mississippi. I get to LA and it's vegan spots, you know, you got a juice shop. You know, you're vegan, he's like vegan spots. Wow.
Don't get me started.
You know what I'm saying? So I get to LA and I really found, I'm like, yo, health is wealth. I'm like, what's this thing? Everybody's hiking, everybody, you know, so this is 2016 and I'm getting adjusted to this new lifestyle. And mom's body took a turn for the worse, and it was like crazy for me. It's like a oxymoron in my brain. I'm like, yo, so I'm here where all the healthy stuff is. You know, I'm getting onto all this new knowledge about health in my body, and she's dealing with this situation, and I'm like, yo, you know, I wish she was here. And by the time I really started like, I can put this together, that's when it happened.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. And you talk about even in the song, no more suffering, no more crying. You said that it happened quick.
Yeah.
Did you feel like it was a shock? And did that shock contribute to seeing your mom suffer?
Yeah, it was a shock. And sadly it did result in me seeing her suffer. You know, but that's the reality of it. I was on tour at the time, and literally talked to her before the show. Had a phone call. And she's like, yo, I want you to kill it. You know, hit me up after. You know, I'm chilling. And take these meds, you know, it make me feel a little crazy when I take it. And I'm like, you know, it's going to be cool. I'll hit you after the show. And for some reason after the show, I couldn't sleep. I'm in this hotel room by myself. And I get this phone call like 3, 4 o'clock. And I was like, yeah, it happened. You know, just summon your spirit. It's like when you connected to a person, you know, you got siblings, you got a aunt.
It's your mother.
You know, it's your mother. You can say, hey, some a little off. You know, sometimes I even hit my sibling, like, hey, what's going on? And, you know, it's like, you know, we connected. You know, our bloodline, we connect. I knew when I got that call, I was like, yeah, she passed. My sister got on the phone. She was like, yo. I was like, it's okay. I know you can't find the words. I know it happened. And she just broke down. But I felt like God spiritually just like, I can't even describe what it was in that moment. It was like something so divine that was holding me, you know, that I was able to, and my sisters, God bless their heart, they lost their dad in a tragic car accident while we was in school. So, you know, both parents, my sister, they're a little older than me, but for them, both parents under 35, it's just like, you know, and I was just like, yo, I got you. I'm like, it's cool. I still felt like in that moment, trying to be a man, trying to be tough, I'm like, yo, I got you. It's cool. I know it's happening. You know, God gonna carry us. You know, I just need you to just like, calm down. She's in the hospital at the time. And she's like, yo, do you want us to like keep the body stuff here? I'm like, no, just do what you guys need to do. I'll be home in a little bit. Yeah, so it was the night of my first headline tour. Yeah.
She was with you.
She was with me.
She was with you.
100%.
Ron, I see you getting emotional because I hear a lot of similarities in your story. And you too, Scott?
Yes.
Scotty?
Yes. No, definitely. It's hearing it too. It's kind of eerie because even down to how you find out. You know, I actually lost both parents 3 years apart. I was I think 22, but it's my mom was first. I was 19. Then my dad 3 years later. But interesting. You know, when I was born, they thought I was gonna be this like bad kid because they said a lot of stories. My mother used to tell the story. Because when teachers would call, like, oh, your son is so unmarried or good. And she's like, well, we didn't think he was going to be that when I was giving birth. When they put me in her arms, I winked, and everybody around was like, oh, he's going to put you through like all this trouble. That was the story. But on the night that she passed, we were went to go see her, and she had like she's dealing with cancer. She had like the trach in her throat, and they're like, well, she's doing she's in progress. They're going to take it out. So visiting hours was over. They were going one way, we were going to the elevator, my brother and I. And my mom was like this diva lady, she wore a lot of jewelry, hence why I kind of carried that on. And she like tapped on her gurney bed because she couldn't speak because of the trach. And I looked back, and like she winked at me, and I just thought it was just a regular wink. And interestingly, me coming into this world, I winked at her, and then that was the last thing she did to me going out. So, you know, it's like hearing, you know, your story as far as being that tour and that connection, you know. It's just interesting how those things play, you know. So
wow.
I feel you definitely on that.
Rest in peace to moms and pops.
Yeah.
What was your mother's name, Mom?
Dorothy Mae Bass. She's from born in South Carolina. But,
Shout out to South Carolina.
my grandmother was from South Carolina, but they were born and raised in Brooklyn, like myself. But even that, like, you know, for me, when it happened at 19, and then like I said 3 years later, my dad, I was just so lost in a dark space, and at the time didn't really know much about like, you know, wellness and mental health. It's just dealing with all that at a young age. I would just like sometimes like I couldn't bring myself to harm myself, but I just know like in my brain I just want to be with them. So I know in the song like it was the same thing. I was like I don't care if they're not here. Like I just need to go, but I know I couldn't physically harm myself. So what I would do is just with the untrained mind and unhealed mind, I would go on these walks at night, and in my mind it was like, well, I'm not gonna physically harm myself, but if I'm in these rough neighborhoods, something's bound to happen to me. And I would just walk aimlessly, turn down areas that I knew was particularly rough.
Wow.
And nothing would happen, you know, thank God. But interestingly, love, that grew this love for walking. I didn't realize that something that I intended to start to harm myself actually brought me healing. So I would do all these walk-ins from like Brooklyn to Manhattan and back late at night, wee hours in the morning, and it kind of like instilled this like love for walking because I was able to start the process of the grief.
Wow.
See things and like what I got from it was that the best part of life was being able to see it.
Wow.
And you won't be able to see it if you're not here.
Wow.
So like, and then that turned into art, using the inspirations from the walks and people watching and seeing buildings in the sky and colors just started to play real interesting to me in a way that I was able to like put sound and taste of color and all these different things.
Wow.
It inspired that in a very interesting way. Didn't know that it would do that because I was like,
I think what's so eerie is how I can relate to you guys, but I did not have that kind of connection that you guys had with these figures. So for me, luckily my mom's still here, but my father died, we didn't have a relationship like that. He's someone that I wanted to have a relationship with. I wanted to have a relationship with him really bad. So even as a kid, like I'm doing little things to try to create this connection, to get to know my father even just a little bit. Like I would do things as far as going into his room and just watching him sleep, smelling his room so I can just familiarize myself with who is this man? Like I know he's my dad, but I don't know him. I want to know him. And my mom would always tell me like, that's a Scottie, that's a lost cause. Like, don't even bother. Like that whole side of your family is just chaos. But even as a kid, I'm just like, regardless, that's still my dad. Like that's still my family. Like I love them. I don't know why, but I do. So I would try to build a relationship with my dad in my teenager years, but I started feeling that my mom's telling me, the lost cause. Like I'm trying to establish hey, like let's talk to each other at least once a month kind of thing. Like, just so we can stay in touch. And then I did that thing that people tell us not to do. I was just like, yo, I'm always the one calling this man. I'm not gonna call him this month. I'm gonna see if he calls me. Did he call me? No, he didn't. I'm very upset about it. So now I'm not talking to him at all, because what's the point? Like I'm always reaching out. I want you to show action that you want to have a relationship with me as well. So we ended up being estranged for like 12, 13 years. And I always told myself, I was like, you know what? Eventually I'm going to make that reconnection with my dad. Like, but I kind of want to do it out of spite a little bit. Let me finish college. Let me accomplish some stuff. And let me show him the kind of man I became without his influence in my life. And then 3 days before my birthday, when I was about to turn 25, I get this random call from my estranged brother who I hadn't heard or seen in like mad long. And all he says is, bro, Dad's in the hospital. I'm just like, what? Like, what are you talking about? He's in the hospital, he's in a coma. I'm just like, bro, what are you talking about? He's like, I don't know, man, I gotta go. It sounded so serious, because my family's like, that side of the family is real hood. It's real Boys in the Hood meets Medea, meets Zeus, meets Baggy. It's like, it's crazy. So I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. And the day before my birthday, he gives me a call and tells me that my dad passed away. And even though I did not have a relationship with my dad, I am still feeling the feelings that you guys felt. Like this, like, why am I so hurt right now? This man did nothing for me. This man was not in my life at all, but I am really hurt by this happening. And art and creating has always been a form of creative therapy for me. Like, I've always been an artist for as long as I can remember, so everything I create is for me first. And then I just chose to just share what I'm creating with the world via social media, the internet, whatever have you. That's a great way to transition into this. The next part of this conversation is how we all process. Like you said, we're all artists here at this table. We're all Black men. And like I said before, we have been conditioned to not feel our feelings. So I'm interested to know, starting with you, TA,
Before you found music, before you found art, before you found photography, how did you process pain? How did you process grief? How were you guys able to mourn? And then how does that differ to how you would grieve now?
Man, I mean, if I have to be real with you, I processed it as continue to move, just keep going. I don't think I ever had a moment where I sat and I paused and I processed. I once again wound up coming to LA, got into therapy somehow, and I was like, yo, I've been taking these wounds and I've been just moving on this whole time, not even sitting processing stuff that has happened. So like, even when my mom passed, it was so much other stuff in those drawers that I had just closed up that I kind of opened up through her passing. So, you know, it's that traditional black man thing. You gotta be strong, you gotta be tough, you gotta keep going, man. Like I didn't feel like I had time to like stop and process or cry. You know, hey man, toughen up, bro. Like, you know, that's what I'm hearing from some of my uncles. I'm like, yo, I'm looking at them like, you know, but I thought that was the right way to, you know, process it. Be tough, be strong. You know, I found my moments, my quiet moments, but, you know, through maturing through this grieving process, I learned that it was a strength to cry. I'm actually tougher when I cry. You know, I'm allowing myself to feel, you know, and not veering from your question, but that was the first part of grief for me. I was like, when I knew I was grieving, I was like, yo, I feel it. It hurts. You know, I don't want a solution right now. This shit hurts. And I'm like, yo, I'm gonna sit here for a minute. Because when it first happened, that unhealthy way of grieving, I couldn't even cry. I'm like, hey, let me go to the studio today. It's time to, you know? I'm like, no, bro, it's cool. Sit, pipe down, you know? It's okay to be weak for a moment and to call on your friends and calling, hey, bro, I need you to come sit with me. It's like, come chill, you know? But at one point in my life, I felt like, yo, I feel weak for doing this.
And also you're in a state of shock, right? You're also in a state of paralysis.
Yes.
Your nervous system is out of whack.
Yeah.
For me, I lost my best friend when I was, 21?
Jeez.
Yeah, my best friend Lyric was tattooed on my arm.
Wow.
And 3 months after that, I lost my grandmother. She got her wings. She tattooed on the back of my arm.
Wow.
And I remember I hadn't cried for Lyric for a whole year.
Yeah.
And then 3 months later, losing my grandmother,
Yeah.
it just all went to shit.
Yeah.
You know? And I remember the anniversary of Lyric's passing. Bro, I couldn't go to sleep. And when I was able to sleep, it woke me up out of my sleep. And then all of a sudden, I just started crying. I remember just being so angry and frustrated. And also when you think about your best friend, you think about having a long life with them.
Yeah.
And to just think that those dreams are vanished.
Yeah.
Now you only remember this person in this one point in her life. You can't think of this person growing old anymore, which is also a frustrating idea, right?
Yeah.
And then with my grandmother, somebody that I've known my entire life, and I knew she was gonna get old, but the person that I always call, the person that prayed for me, and the person that would pick up the phone whenever I called is no longer there. It's, you really have to sit in knowing that this is real.
Yeah.
This is not going to change.
Yeah.
They're gone forever, but you have to really hold dear to the memories, the lessons, and the prayers that protected you, that kept you alive. You know, Ron, we talk about this often. You know, you use your art as a form of grief. How are you able to find inspiration in your art without shutting down when creating?
Yeah, it's kind of different for me in a sense that growing up, I would like to say, I mean, nothing's perfect, but my parents, which made it even harder because I feel they did an amazing job. They created a space for me to be emotional, be a kid. I don't have memories of like stifling or them like that whole, and you hear some people like where dads are like, be a man, tough enough. Now there were some moments, but it wasn't like where I didn't feel that I could express myself in all forms. Like my mom had me in sports, music, all different type of things to figure out. So it was a loving household, and they poured into me in a way where the absence of them hurts so much because I don't have many things like, oh, I wish they did it. I just want more of that because as an adult, navigating through this life without it and having to pull it from yourself, it's a tremendous work. And I remember in the early years, I would, especially like relationships, so many women, I would be looking for that mother's love in them. And once I realized like no one could ever replace that, and looking for the world to love me like my dad and realizing that was a unique thing that you had, so for me, it's a little different how I had to process it. So the art is basically inspired by the love that they poured into me. That is my way of honoring, and those memories that I had, a lot of it comes from a child, the child in me that I'm always nurturing and honoring. The adult is going to be there. That's the thing that is just happening. But sometimes we forget the kid because physically you no longer see it. But for me, I'm always pouring into that child because he experienced so much. Like I said, 19, that's still very
super young.
So young.
Sheesh.
To have to navigate, college and just your many first with the people who were by your side and poured into you, biggest cheerleaders. I mean, my mom was the kind of mom where I would overhear her speaking to her sisters and be like, oh, what your boy's doing over there? Because my boy just got an A, or he's doing this, just so proud. And I'm in my room like, yeah, that's my mom was cheering for me. And it was always like that, especially with my dad, just moments they cheered on me in a certain way. So not having that was a blow that I'm like, I just want to be with them. That's why, the fine line of that harm, you know what I mean? Where I was just, so today as an artist, I just basically pour into my art the love that they poured into me. And that's the reflection of that. And so many, great opportunities have come from that just by being able to, when I tell them, I'm like, man, this is all my parents.
Wow.
I could take the credit, but this is, you guys think I wish you had met them. You know what I mean? I really wish you had met them because I'm a true reflection of them. I even have a tattoo that says, on my side, life of serenity and merge with righteousness. My mom was this very serene, which is why I'm into yoga and meditation. That was like my mom. And I didn't even identify it back then, but now when I know it, I'm like, oh, that was my mom. And then my dad grew up in the church, this righteous man, and, spoke the word of God and the gospel into me in the sense that I carry that to this day, So that's, the work today is all inspired by them.
Wow, that's something we have in common. My mom was a pastor, actually. Yeah, man. So I feel like, too, just adding what you were saying, one thing, the Christian way of grieving, I felt like I dealt with a lot of those spiritual band-aids. I'm like, God, I don't know if you can do this one. I'm like, I don't know about this one, bro. I don't know. You threw me a curveball this time. The scriptures ain't working. The quotes ain't working. The damn near the prayers ain't even working, bro. I'm like, you threw me one. And I feel like there was a moment too, spiritually, where I had a true come to Jesus moment. I'm like, yo, you gotta make this make sense for me. And I felt like at that moment, God was like, this thing about prayer without work is dead. He was like, look at that from a broader spectrum. It's like real life and spirituality. He was like, truth to the matter is you lost your mom. It hurt. Sit in that. Once you process that, then we can get to all the other spiritual stuff, But I feel like sometimes Christianity give us such an unrealistic way of dealing with stuff, It's like we have to deal in the realness of who we are. But I'm trying to cut you off. But when you said that your pops was a minister, I was like, man, yeah, my mom she was a pastor, and I'm just like, yo, when she passed, it questioned everything about my Christian foundation. I was like, I don't know, man. I don't understand any of this, you know?
As a creative, I think the interesting thing about grief is that as creatives, I feel like a lot of us are very empathic, and sometimes, a lot of times, the grief that we feel is not even necessarily just from people that aren't with us anymore in the physical form. You know, some people that we grieve are actually still living and still walking around, you know? And for me, that creative therapy of just expressing myself however way I needed to. So growing up, I was a very happy child. Like, I was cool, but I was always getting in trouble a lot with my folks. And it's not that I was acting out or anything. I'm just simply being myself in a way that does not conform with the way that they want me to be. So my way of creative expression started off as like writing in like a Edgar Allan Poe kind of way, like all is lost. Everybody's dead at the end of my story, because what's the point? You know, we all get our life lessons, but we always seem to get our life lessons at the last moment when it's too late. You know, so now as an adult, it's like I'm not afraid to express myself. I expressed myself a lot in the privacy of my room, my sanctuary, because I was in a space where I couldn't freely just express myself with my parents. I didn't really share a lot of what I created with them. Like, this is for me. I created this literally for me. I don't need you reading this. I don't need you seeing what I drew. Like, this is for me. That's it. But then eventually just this switch happened. I'm just like, nah, I feel like I need to share what I'm creating, because I feel like a lot of people may genuinely resonate with what I'm doing, and it can come from simply just by being that thing that I was not necessarily raised to do, but the kind of environment I was in. Don't be yourself. Like, be yourself, just not like that. My family was very Disney Channel about things. Even with Christianity, it's very Disney Channel. Like, what about when I really want to be real? Like I want to be really real with you, but I feel like I can't. I gotta put this mask on, even with my family, you know? So I can only be the real me in the comfort of my home, our room.
I want to go back to what you just said about creating your sanctuary and creating your art before the world knows how you truly feel or how you process. TA, what got you to the point of writing this song? Because I'm sure you spent some time alone, thinking about this traumatic experience of losing your mom without anybody really knowing how you truly felt. Why now? Why make this song in this moment?
All right, so I'm gonna keep it real. It's kind of an emotional story. I didn't even share this with my manager Blake, sitting behind the camera right now. But he know I had this moment. I was like, man, I got this song and I really want to share it with my fans and with my peers. I want people to hear this, but because of that whole thing I talked about earlier, being in LA and mom's back in Mississippi, it's this part of me that I felt like I could save her. And so I get taunted in my dreams sometimes. I have these crazy dreams where it's like I'm saving her and I'm like bringing her to LA. I got more nutritionists, so many people I've met. And in those dreams, man, I'm like literally saving her. But right at the moment where I get ready to I wake up and my roommate, they know when I have these moments, I go into like this crazy cry when I wake up, and they're like, it's pretty rough cries. And this morning, it's been like 2 months ago, I had one of those dreams. I had an episode, I woke up and it's just, I have to let it out. It's just like this traumatic cry. But this time after I cried, I went to the computer and I just started singing these melodies. I'm like, you got your wings, and I'm playing on the piano. And I was like, yo, let me write. And that's when I wrote this record. But it came by way of this crazy dream that I had, that I kind of have often. You know, they've kind of lightened up a little bit. But truth to the matter is, bro, I still deal with this feeling of thinking that I could have saved her. Yeah.
Isn't it an interesting concept of how we grieve? We want the person that we love to be with us forever, to be here while we're alive. But that's just not the reality.
It's just not the
And
reality.
we have to force ourselves to think and to realize that this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And in the end of your song, you say how it's selfish for me to think that I can save you.
Yeah.
But this is just how it has to be.
100%.
That's interesting too, because I mean, through my grief, it's been over 20 plus years. I had to stop counting the years. That was helpful for my process. But I'm actually at a place over the last few years where I actually don't want them in the physical. I just wish there was a way that I could channel it and have a direct, like, hey, what's your thoughts on this? You know, that's kind of what I sit with now, because like some of these deals are just opportunities. Still to this day, like I'll be in a meeting and then back of my mind, like, all right, when I'm done, I gotta let them know, like, oh, I just did this thing or I saw this thing.
Facts.
And there's a certain emptiness when you hang that phone up or you get out of the meeting. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And then it's like, oh, that gut feeling, like that can't happen anymore. And I wish there was a way. I know they were watching over. I wish there was more direct way that I could just be like text or something. Because in this world we are today, they aren't suffering anymore. So I agree with that. And just where the world is at, some of the things I see, I'm like, y'all good. This down here is not, where it's at. Y'all good. I just wish there was a way that somewhere I can go, make a phone call. If it was a hotline or something, just be like, yo, Ma, like, so yeah, and to go what you said is kind of the opposite for me. I'm happy and okay with that. I've come to grips that in the physical, I don't yearn for them in that way. I just wish that I could talk to them.
I think what's cool, because we're creatives the way that we are, like what we were saying earlier about your inner child, like that's one thing that I stand for. Like my inner child is alive and well, always will be. I don't care. I'll be 70 years old still watching cartoons, like still. But there is a certain beauty that I find very entertaining of being delusional. So even though I didn't have the kind of father figure that I wanted, through my creativity, I can be as imaginative and delusional as I want to be, and I can create those father figures, best friends, whatever type of feeling that I'm looking for within my creativity, so that it brings me a certain level of peace within my mind. So in the context of just like wishing somebody was still here with me physically, deep down, no, I'm not okay with it. It's okay to admit that I'm not okay with it. I can still miss them, even though the world tells me to, push those thoughts to the back of my mind because it can mess with your mental health. It's cool. But at the end of the day, through my creativity, I feel like I'm able to bring myself to a place where I can at least be content first and then happy about how life is continuing to move and evolve and grow and open new spaces for me to create these potential connections with other people.
Beautifully said. TA, if your mother was still here and you played her the song, what do you think she would say?
Man, I think she would. I think she definitely would cry, be emotional. In the words of her, if she was here, I can't believe this happened to me. Like, I remember her being in this ICU for a moment, and she kind of came out. She looked at me. She was like, "Dude, this really happened." I'm like, "Bro, I know. Like, this shit is crazy." She was like, "Yeah, like I can't even believe it." And my mom had a youth about herself. She was just 49, so she was really young. But she couldn't believe it was happening to her, man. She couldn't believe it. She was just like, "Yo, I don't even know what to say." And so thinking about her hearing this record, it's like Thank you. Like, she knew in those moments I would try my best. LA to Mississippi, there's just no short flight. So she knew I would always try to be there to see it, so that for her to see me incorporate her in my art, I know she would appreciate that. Yo.
This is the last question. This is for everybody here. We go down the line. To the young brother or the old brother that's watching this video right now that thinks it's weak to talk about their feelings, talk about their grief, talk about their mental health, what would you say to that person? What advice would you give to that person?
To that young brother, young sister, even elders, because some people are dealing with it at all ages, talk to somebody, man. Talk to somebody, it's been, I say about 6 years since my mom passed, 20 for you. So, even hearing you guys talk in this interview, you gave me another perspective. I'm like, wow, maybe I don't want her here in this form, but like that spiritual portal, which I could talk to her. But saying that to that young brother, talk to somebody, because there's always a different perspective. Sometimes it's just the simple act of getting it out. There's strength in being vulnerable. There's so many bad things that can happen to your health because of holding stuff in. When you talk about the nervous system and you familiarize yourself with cortisol, and you see what that stuff do to your system. Cortisol literally contaminates your body, so you have to release it. You have to free your nervous system, that stuff. I feel like holding it in not so much only impact your mental health, but it leads to early death. Stress leads to an early grave. So talk to somebody. You want to be healthy. You want to have children. You want to see your kids grow up. You want to fix some of the things that's in our, for Black people. You have to raise young adults in a way. And I'm saying this because sometimes I feel like it's men that have kids that are raising young adults, and I'm just like, wow, man, you're still dealing with stuff. So, just talk to somebody. It's a strength. It's not a weakness to talk.
Yeah. Well said, and piggyback off that. I would just encourage that, there is a form of happiness on the other side of healing. What that looks like for you varies, but find it. Like I said, for me, it's what started out as something that I was just looking to harm myself, turning to healing. Just walking, I was able to see things, and a lot of us are fortunate to have eyes, but you have to build a vision. It's not just being able to see it, but also being able to determine what it is you're looking at, how are you seeing life through this pain. So it's just like find that thing, that outlet, art, sports, meditation, singing, even if you don't share it with anybody, because a lot of my early work I didn't share. It was so some friends was like, man, you should be putting this out, and took the advice of one of those friends, and that first piece wound up going to Jay-Z. And like, I didn't see that, I didn't foresee that. Just like, had I not shared that outward, that my career probably wouldn't have taken off that way. So I would just say, find that thing within you, because there is a form of happiness on the other side.
Love that.
If anybody listening is an empath like I am, I'm going to just start off by saying just a quick little analogy that I like to use sometimes. But being the type of creative that I am, I see a lot of us kind of like lighthouses in this dark world, and we shine our light so bright, and it gravitates so many people to us with their crates of fucking baggage. And it's up to you to be able to figure out how to unpack all of that baggage and learn in the best way possible to channel that energy into something constructive, not necessarily healthy, constructive, something that you can actually utilize to your best abilities. Whatever God-given gifts you were given, be able to just use that and channel it. And don't let anybody tell you how you feel. You determine how you feel and use that to the best of your abilities. Because being told how you feel is like one of the worst feelings in the world. Feel how you feel, express that, even if it's in the comfort of your own space, even if that's just talking into the mirror, just simply express yourself. And my hope and prayer is that one day in the midst of doing that, you will be compelled and inspired to eventually share it with someone else.
100%.
Be the light.
Be the light. Be the light. And I want to just add this one part on that question. I know I talked about earlier how Christianity just blurred the lines of like healing for me. So let me just say, I do feel like God put therapists here, you know, so there are so many free resources out there as it relates to like wellness and mental health. So familiarize yourself with that stuff. If you feel like you don't have a friend, somebody you could talk to, God put them here to help us. You know, we take Zyrtec when we have allergies, you say, you know, so just like that, you know, they're here for you. So just familiarize yourself with all the free resources that are out there. Yep.
Go to Beam.
Yep.
And Beam.org, Black Emotional Mental Health Collective. Wow. But walk good if you in LA.
Come on.
You know, funny enough, my grandmother told me to walk good. So that was the inspiration behind the name.
Did you guys know that about the walking? I was thinking about that when you was talking.
We talk about it all the time.
Wow, that's
he was walking bad before you know
I never thought about that.
That's interesting enough. That's
crazy.
One of the ways in which we were able to bond as best friends.
That's crazy.
I think it was your mother's birthday, and Ron, he hit me up. He's like, bro, can we go for a walk?
Are you serious?
I was like, man, I barely know you. You want to walk with me? But like we were always kindred spirits, and I found it. I found honor in the fact that he trusted me to walk with me, and now here we are walking the path together, doing the good work.
That's crazy, man. You know? That's dope. That's dope.
I'm proud of y'all. Thank y'all for this time and being vulnerable and sharing y'all's experiences.
Absolutely.
Let's call out the names of those who are no longer here with us.
Yeah.
As we close out, for me, Ivy Ralph, Lyric Ivy Ralph, Lyric McHenry.
Yeah, Dorothy Bass, Lillian Bass, my grandma.
Yeah. For me, it's Nicole Thomas, Jalen Winters, my nephew, Wardell Chambers, my sister's dad, Beulah Foltz, and Freddie B. Thomas, both of my grannies.
My dad, Darrell Bowers. I didn't know his last name, y'all. I didn't get to the middle name. I didn't know him like that. So, Darrell Bowers, that's all I know.
Darrell.
My dad and we were naming gentlemen as well. So I would like to also honor my dad, Ronnie Lee Cogdell, and my grandfather, John Cogdell.
And my grandfather too, Dr. Stanley Ralph. You got your wings.
Yes, sir.
They do.
Amen. They have their wings. Appreciate y'all.
Appreciate you.
Woo!
All right. 40 million.